how did you start to build a business? How did you, you did your training. Where did you first start? What kind of,
Golly, believe it or not, is one twig at a time. Trust me.
yeah,
um, when I said I started with insurance, my first license, the insurance license, I forgot what it's called now, but it's not like the Group 1 that allows you to do annuities and
right.
health and life and all that kind of thing. I specialize in prearranged funeral planning, where it is a funeral plan is funded through insurance as opposed to a funeral home trust. And I worked with independently owned funeral homes, and I sat down, which was kind of really a prelude to the way I do things now. I mean, I would sit down with a family in their home, and we would talk about if you had to do it today, what would you do? And I sold over $5 million. I put together like $5 million worth of prearranged funeral plans, insurance funded.
Wow.
And I built an organization too. I hired people to get licensed, and I taught them how to be like a funeral director, not an embalmer or anything like that. I didn't get involved in that. In fact, it's really to me, it's kind of a depressing industry, and I never did really like going into the back. And of course, you see this autopsy,
Right.
But
right.
I can tell you the great things that I did and we did for people. They were just it's humbling, but it's so satisfying because now it's all prearranged, pre-planned.
Right.
The wife doesn't have to go down and pick out a casket. The hardest thing to do, and all. And one year, my group, I was number one in the company they called me a state manager. My group did over $5 million that year in funeral plans. And I still do it today, believe it or not. I mean, I do it, the client that I mentioned to you before we got into it, that passed away. I had worked with him and his wife back 4 or 5 years ago and put together a funeral plan. As a matter of fact, I'm skilled in cemetery markers and things of that nature. I have a relationship with a company just outside of town here. They actually did the marker for my mom and dad a long, long time ago. And now their son has been running the business. But yes, I mean, I help people design their cemetery markers. Of course, I get paid for it. I get a commission. But it's just another thing that I offer, that I do, that I can help people with, besides, manage money, life insurance, long-term care, whatever.
Sure. You started with the funeral insurance, and then where did you go from there? Then you met clients, and then you expanded that mandate, or did you?
Yeah, one of the ways to fund those plans was basically like an annuity, and that's when I just started getting more involved on the side with that. And the reason is that particular insurance company was family owned. They were very successful, but it's family owned, and it was just kind of a really a go nowhere for me in turn as far as a future is, and the amount of commission or income that you can get is just, I mean, it didn't trip my trigger, even though I did a lot of it and for a number of years. But so I wanted to get more into the annuity world and more of the financial world, I guess. So I started, with the fixed annuities and moved on into variable, and a lot of that is still on the books today. In fact, a lot of my clients are enjoying. I have a pretty large book of variable annuities, but I say variable because I used riders, mainly income riders, and they have worked extremely well. My clients are very happy with, I mean, it's like clockwork. They get that check every month. And
yes.
One of the companies that I did a lot with is Prudential. And I was reading the other day, they are well over $1 trillion company. As a matter of fact, my broker dealer, LPL, now with all of their, they're managing over $1 trillion,
right.
In assets. But at any rate, that's where it started, and it just grew. And I realized that if I wanted to to do more for a person, then I'm going to have to learn more. I'm going to have to get educated. And and I did. So, I would still had to support my family, my lifestyle, and pay for education and pay for marketing. I did a lot of seminars that I organized, myself, and newspaper things and mailers. And in fact, I wrote the mailers, and there are companies, a lot of companies, but one in particular just copied me. And I couldn't do anything about it. I wish I would have gotten a little piece of what they did, but at any rate. Now, where did I learn all that? I learned it in the corporate world. I learned, how to use color and copy and wording, and I just position things so that I could get the person that's looking at this to look at the right thing and have it talk to them. It's a lot of fun. I still enjoy it. It's still fun.
Get there. Yeah.
So anyway, from there, I just you grow both in confidence and in being able to deal with larger and larger and larger type of clients, so that you know what you're talking about, and you're going to lead them certainly in the right direction. Sure. And I've built this book of business and all the different transactions. As I mentioned to you earlier, it's not all about assets under management. It all starts with, the individual, the person or the couple. And I'd have like a 3 or 4 hour conversation with them about what is important to them. And, you listen and you learn. And people have always shared with me, they've talked with me, and I've kind of jokingly said, they tell me things sometimes I wish that I didn't know, but still, you need to know so that you can help them. But I mean, nobody ever told me anything that was really bad. Certainly nothing criminal or anything like that. But you get to know people, and you hear things about the family and so forth and all. And it's been rewarding because of all the different transactions that I do with each individual or each family. They're mostly families, couples. They've involved a lot of interesting things. During a conversation with one of my clients, I learned that they had a little new grandbaby, and it was a little girl with Down syndrome. And they told me a number of things. I don't want to get into it right now, but a number of things, which I said, well, based on what you're sharing with me, I think what we really ought to do is set up a special needs trust. And as I mentioned to you earlier, a dear friend of mine and a great buddy, and we've worked together. He's an estate planning attorney, and we've worked together since like 2005. So I got Jack involved and told him what they want to do and so forth. And so he put together the special needs trust along with, a lot of other legal things, that we did. But that was pretty cool. And they funded, that trust to that little girl. And she's now 16, 17 years old. It's amazing how time flies. But that's just kind of an example of what I do, because when I talk to people, they talk back. And I've been able to do a lot of things like that. My heart is into giving. That's the reason I did the CAP thing. And that has been also fulfilling and rewarding, not only for me, but for the people. And there's so many people, particularly business owners, that have made it on their own. They understand giving back, and they want to. They just don't know how. I mean, there's a thing you probably remember. You know what checkbook philanthropy is? I mean, they're great at writing checks when there's a tsunami or whatever, but you'll find that they want to do more. A lot more, and they don't want the credit for it. They don't want their name plastered up on the side of a building. And the Internal Revenue Code has a lot to say about that. There's so much you can do if you know it.